Hello everybody, this is Justin Elliott with Elliott's Estate Sales, and today I'm going to tell you about one of my bizarre stories of being an estate liquidator here in Oklahoma over the past 12 years. Once in a while you will get folks that, sign a contract, meet with them, you talk with them, for weeks about their estate sale. And for whatever reason, they decide that they don't want to do an estate sale after they have signed the contract, allowed you, the liquidator, to start advertising their stuff. And they get cold feet. And so that is fine. That's addressed in my contract, as you can imagine. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to be pretty detailed with this particular instance. I want to use this as a learning experience. I want to use this as, informing my customers, informing my shoppers, and informing my followers, people who follow me, people who come to my sales. I want you guys to know what it is that I have to deal with, not just to set up an estate sale, to advertise an estate sale, to price an estate sale, to negotiate with folks at an estate sale, but what can go on behind the scenes with a seller that everyone else that's shopping the estate sale may not even know. Okay, now with this particular situation, her name is Linda, Linda Kennard actually. She met with me and she text messaged me many weeks ago. Today is November 29th. Linda messaged me, again, Mrs. Kennard messaged me, and she text messaged me about details that we had made many, many weeks ago. The very first response that I got from her was on Tuesday. She messaged me via text message, asked me when I could come over and when I could possibly get her in for an estate sale. Now, Linda and I had already talked about her estate sale, what I would need for her to do. So if you call me at 405-757-4001 or our Tulsa number at 918-928-7534, the very first questions I'm going to have are for you is, what's the situation? Whether it be probate, are you the trustee, are you the owner, are you, a widower, or are you the widow? What's going on in your situation? Because the very first thing that's running in my mind is, how do you legally have authorization to sell these items in your home or in your rental place or your business? And my next question is where is the place located at? Where in Oklahoma are you at? Estate sales and auctions and liquidations require, if they're going to be done on site, a populous area. So if you're calling me from OKC, Oklahoma, and you have a 1,500 square foot house full of 1970s furniture, I'm probably going to advise you that your sale may not be that great to have. It may not be profitable for you. I'd be happy to do it for you. Let me send you my contract. If you agree with that contract, then we'll move forward. So that's generally what I tell people when they call me. I did the same with Linda. She messaged me, wanted to meet up, gave me her address. I'd already explained all of my needs from her and all the things that she's required, the certain performance that's required of the seller for me to hold an estate sale for someone. I met with her. We talked for about 2 hours. She walked me through the place. She explained to me that she was a previous, in the early 80s and 90s, an estate liquidator, somebody that did what I did. And we kind of, met a mutual feeling that, we could talk about, the experiences that we had with customers and sellers over the years and how people, can be crazy and dishonest and, just absolutely lunatics. And so we bonded on that. We shared several instances where, we had dealt with several crazy sellers and, people that had worked with us, people maybe that had shopped with us, etc. So I'm thinking, okay, I think I should be safe to be able to enter into a contract with Linda. I do not enter into a contract with just everyone. I want to touch my bases. I want to make sure that I agree with these people, and I want to make sure that they're going to be reasonable. Because if they're unreasonable, they're going to be unhappy. And honestly, I don't have time for that. I don't have time for unhappy customers. I only have a certain amount of weekends and a certain amount of time that I could dedicate toward liquidating. And when I want to work with someone, I want to work with someone that's organized and someone that's not going to give me any problems. So I thought entering into this contract with Miss Kennard would be just fine. Well, shit hit the fan. I'm sorry about the cussing, and if you are someone that is offended by cussing, then this series is probably not going to be for you. So I just want to let you know that there will be cussing. A lot of this is going to be just straight ad lib. I am not going to edit most of this stuff. This is going to be pushed is going to be maybe edited just for time's sake and cut up for, just blank spaces in the video. But other than that, this is going to be just right off of my cuff. So I just want you to be prepared. I don't want any, nasty comments of, oh my gosh, you cussed or you offended me, etc., etc. So you've been forewarned. This is your warning. Anyhow, shit happened, and shit happens. We're all human beings. People enter into contracts every day that they don't intend to actually uphold, and that would be illegal. It would be illegal for you to enter in a contract that you didn't have good faith of actually holding up your certain performance in that contract. So that is exactly what happened. I met with this lady. We talked about everything. I was there for 2 hours talking about a very small home with very modest amount of value secondhand. The stuff was filled with stuff Linda explained to me from a lake house that she had, and stuff from, I think she said her grandmother. And Linda is not a young lady herself. I would guess she's probably at least 65. So her mother would probably at least, 20, 30 years older than her. And so we're talking about stuff that would have been popular way long time ago. Now, the stuff in the house is in good shape. It wasn't disassembled. It wasn't, grungy. It wasn't dirty. The house did smell like cigarette smokes because Linda is a smoker. You knew she was a smoker. I could smell it immediately when I walked in the house. But she told me she would refrain from smoking in the house. These are the things that I have to pay attention to when I come into an estate sale. What does the place smell like? What does the person look like? How are they dressed? Because if you take care of yourself, you probably take care of your stuff. But if you don't take care of yourself, you probably don't take care of your stuff either. The things go hand in hand, and these are things that you start to realize over doing this for a decade. Everything seemed to be going fine. We signed a contract, and that contract is right here. And so you see here, Miss Linda agreed, up there with her name. She gave me her address to where to send the check. My contract is, at this time, 4 pages long, okay? 4 pages long. Now, the contract is really simple. The contract is easily accessible, and if you'd like to read my contract after hearing about all this, then please let me know. I'd be happy to send you my contract. If you're ready to liquidate, I'd be happy to help you with that too. I can help you sell your house by reassignment. I can sell everything in your home or business, and so I'm happy to help you with that. But this is for educational purposes, and I want folks to know exactly what they're signing and what they agree to, and that this is a legally binding contract, for one of which that I will take to court if I need to do so. And I'll ask your feedback after this, whether or not you think that I should be concerned with this particular sale, whether or not you think that it's fair for me to actually hold the lady to what she signed, and whether or not you think that, a judge would rule in my favor or not. I have my personal opinion. My lawyers have a personal opinion on as to whom's favor it would be, but is it really worth it? And so that's really my question. So let's go ahead and get started. I want to talk about the contract, and I want to give you, kind of a consultation, if you will, if you're interested. And so let's go ahead and get started. The very first part of my contract says, it identifies whether you're the executor, the owner, or the attorney in fact. The person that's supposed to be in charge of selling the stuff, the person that actually has the authorization for liquidating the personal property or the home that they are attempting to liquidate with my company. She identifies herself as Linda Kennard. She identified the address, and the address was over on Northwest 20th Street. And so gives me her number, it gives me a place she wants me to send her check. She says that she does not want me to clean up after an estate sale. That's a very important question to me because it may not, be something I'm interested in. Maybe you live in a hoarder situation, or maybe you live in a situation where the clean out would outcost what it would cost to have an estate sale, and you're going to have to come out of pocket. A lot of people don't want to come out of pocket with this type of service. And so those are always things that I look out for. If you don't want to come out pocket, or if you seem like you're in kind of, hardship, not interested in working with you. Those customers generally bring lawsuits, they bring very unhappy customers and sellers, and they bring lots and lots of nasty negative energy. And that's something that I'm not interested in. So if you are, looking for an estate liquidator and you feel as though that, it's not a clean situation, or there's going to be no drama or personal emotions that come out, don't want to work with you. So I don't have time for that. I have enough drama in my own life. I don't need to get into your drama either. So I prefer quick, clean transactions. So as we move down here, it identifies whether or not you're going to sell a car or find jewelry or firearms, luxury goods, personal property, etc. this particular Linda, she told me she had a Louis Vuitton purse she'd like to sell. And of course she wanted top dollar for it. It was a vintage piece, the standard monogram, LV style. And, it's a great pattern, but it's going down in value. And depending on what kind it is, what particular bag it is, and the rarity of it, it may be something that's really fabulous, or it might be something that's a $300 bag. And if we're really splitting hairs over a $300 bag, she told me that she wanted me to look at it first to see whether or not I thought it was valuable or not. And I'm happy to look at things for value if I'm going to sell them. But I'm not going to tell you what I think they're worth and for you to go and take that information and go sell it yourself. So that's not how I work. eBay is available, Mercari is available, any kind of resale, Poshmark, etc. You could get comparables on your own. But that being said, she was withholding a bag, didn't put it at the estate sale, but just wanted my details for it. That's like going to a lawyer and asking them, do I have a case here? And then spending, 30 minutes on your case and then they don't get paid. Somebody might be cool with that. I'm not cool with that. I'm just not in that position of my career. So I want to see stuff. I want to touch stuff. I want to look at stuff that I'm going to sell. If I'm not going to sell it, I don't want to see it. And I don't want to tell you the valuable either unless I'm going to get paid. So that being said, I think it's very understandable for me and reasonable for me to use my experience and get paid for it. Items for sale. First paragraph, it's always the hardest for people. What's for sale? That's the first thing that I ask people when they call me on the phone. What is for sale? Oh, well, I got some dressers and I have some kitchenwares and, some stuff. Okay, well, dressers and kitchenwares and stuff does not make an estate sale. This is not a garage sale company. We don't just take every single estate sale. You have to qualify for an estate sale. That means that ideally you have at least $10,000 worth of stuff, accumulative, and that could be in guns and cars and jewelry, fine jewelry, diamonds, gold, etc. And then you're going to need a whole house full of stuff as well. It could be a small house, a small, modest abode, but it needs to be very packed and alluring, and you need to have cool stuff that gets people to come to your very small estate sale. An estate sale is not defined as a very small house where someone's getting rid of stuff that they don't want anymore. That is not an estate sale. That is a garage sale. This is a liquidation of someone's stuff that's not needed anymore, or is not in style, or is very style specific. And so an estate sale is filled with some stuff that people actually will get in their car and come to. So if that's hard for you to understand, ask me in the comments. I'd be happy to elaborate in those particular situations. Not every estate sale is the same, and most of them are different. And so when you go through a home and when I look at a home, I'm really not going to know what your sale is going to bring until I've set up everything, looked at everything, looked to see if, your folks didn't glue things back together, that there's not chips and cracks and breaks and, stuff on that's on glassware, that there's not stains on your clothes, that there's not scratches on your tabletops, that your rugs don't have stains, that there's not urine marks in your furniture. These are the things that matter when you go to sell stuff secondhand. People want to buy stuff secondhand, people want to save money, but they also want stuff that's in good shape. So if you are confused about an estate sale, this is not a liquidation. This is not an opportunity for you to get rid of stuff that you just, you don't want anymore. You're just going to wash your hands of. Take that stuff to Goodwill. Save me and other estate sale liquidators the time, because what we want to sell is a whole house full of stuff that people actually want to buy. And so a mixture of the two is good, but you still have to have enough stuff to merit paying labor for a whole team to come in and have your estate sale, for advertising, to pay for insurance, to pay for the filing and the sales tax of your estate sale. There are fees that come with just doing an estate sale that no one ever sees. The business owner sees, but the seller does not see. All right, that's the first page, y'all. Second page is going to be items not for sale. If it's not for sale, it shouldn't be in the house. We're having a liquidation, and it's hard enough to keep people out of a sold table and stop taking items that maybe someone has purchased as they're trying to load it to their car. Much less for us to watch, items maybe that you want to keep in your home. Just because you don't want to sell them. And people, they'll want to keep vacuum cleaners. They'll want to keep cleaning supplies because, they have to clean after the estate sale. Everyone wants cleaning supplies. Everyone wants a vacuum. People are coming to your estate sale to buy anything that would be in your home or your business, and they've been advertised these things. You can't go in and take things that you thought that you needed afterwards. I'm sorry, that's just not the way the cookie crumbles, and that's not the way that our contract works. So if it's not for sale, best case scenario is to get it up and out of the house, period. Because I'm not going to babysit your stuff. If it's not for sale, Get it out. Normally, I'm going to get a good faith payment from everyone that I do an estate sale for. It's going to be at least $500, and that's for a normal estate sale. If your estate sale is in multiple outbuildings over, large acreage, or if your estate sale is, 10,000 square foot or more, I'm going to need a large staff. I'm going to take more upfront from you to cover the proceeds of the staff, for the cash box, for the advertising, for the insurance plan, for gas and travel time. There are expenses, folks. I drive from my home in Oklahoma City to my estate sale, whether it'll be in Tulsa, whether it's McAllister's, whether it's in Lawton. I drive a lot, so I get a lot of gas and wear and tear and mileage on my vehicles. You will pay for that as a seller. I'm not going to absorb those costs. You might find somebody that does that, but that's not me. Insurance. Generally, I'm going to have insurance on every single estate sale. The insurance is going to cover a slip and fall. They're going to cover someone, trying to lift a refrigerator that drops it from their trunk on their foot and wants to file a lawsuit against the estate sale. It can happen. Is there a slim chance of them getting, any kind of lawsuit for that? Yes. Prove your case. We live in America. If you want to sue someone, all you need is their address and their name, and you can take them to court. Period. So it's very important for us to realize that when you do an estate sale and you let folks into your home, your private property, they can sue you for falling in the door. Or if you have multiple services in your home, say maybe a sunken-in living room, and they slip and fall and they bust their face, they can sue you for that. We have an actual insurance policy for those kind of liabilities. I don't know any other estate sale company that does that. So they might have general liability on their company, but that does not cover slip and falls on someone else's private property. So do your research, folks. Post-sale. Post-sale. Everybody wants a post-sale clean out. I don't want any of this stuff. It's basically most folks are selling stuff that they don't want, they don't need, they don't have a place for, and they're over it. They're done. That is my kind of customer. If you still have mental, attachment to these items, if you still have qualms on value, if you think you're going to lose money, don't want to deal with you. If you're that kind of customer, don't want to deal with you. I want a customer that's motivated to sell, understands what they're paying for, understands the value that I provide, and understands that I'm providing a liquidation service of something that it would take you weeks to do. And I'm going to sell your house pretty much after the estate sale, or not at the estate sale, by reassignment. So I've done a lot for you, and I've made a lot of headaches go away from you. I've cut out a realtor. I've cut out you having to lift, load, and carry things and buy them on your own. And I've also cut out the fact of you having to lift and list items on eBay, Mercari, Craigslist. I do all of this stuff for you guys, the sellers, in less than 14 days. And I provide all of this to my buyers. So I do a lot of work. It's very, very crazy how people think that this is just so easy. It's not easy. I make it look easy because I've been doing it for 10 years. So just keep that in mind. Next one is going to be an indemnification clause. If you have lien on the property, if you owe money, if your trust hasn't been settled and you owe the state money, if you owe taxes, I can't hold liable for that. I have had bill collectors from estate sales that I'm doing the estate sale for, where they've come to try to collect debt from me. They've noticed that I've advertised this estate sale. I've been contacted by debt collectors, showed up at the estate sale wanting money from me on the seller's behalf. I can't be held liable for that. And then you'll see there at the very end, Ms. Linda Kennard signed that she agreed to these terms. She also agreed that she would not be at the estate sale and that she would not come back to the estate sale once the estate sale had started and I had taken possession. Possession is me getting entry and me dropping off my stuff at your home to have an estate sale. Now that we've gone over the contract, okay? And if you're still with me, thank you for watching. I just think it's very clear for you to understand what exactly my contract reads today in 2020, November 29th, that was signed with the very first Bizarre Stories of this series. And don't forget the other 10 segments that I have in the other series that I just did here last year. My hair will be different. I think it's blonde in the middle instead of the natural brown and gray. So that's how you'll tell the series and the years apart. I will have a different shirt each time. It won't be the Elliot's Estate Sales shirt. I think that people got confused maybe they had already watched a particular episode because I was wearing the same outfit. So this time I'm going to have a different shirt each segment. So anyway, all right, so let's talk about this whole situation. I go in on Saturday, this last Saturday, past Saturday. I assumed the place, got a garage door opener. I dropped off all my stuff, from my estate sale, and all the stuff that I used for my estate sales. Left it in her garage. Did a video, and it's the video that everybody watched on YouTube. For me to do one of those videos takes about 2.5 hours. That's with shooting it, editing it, putting all the advertisements, putting all the attachments, actually posting it on YouTube, posting it on Facebook, and using all the software that I do in order to do all this. 2.5 hours for one video, and I do 2 to 4 videos per each time. So just that particular segment of all of my advertising takes 10 hours. That doesn't include monitoring Facebook. We have 20,000 people that follow us on Facebook, between groups and between our personal Facebook group. If you're not on my personal Facebook group, please add Elliot's Estate Sales. You're going to look for a page and then also a group. Different things will go to groups, different things will go to a page. If you're not on Instagram, follow me on Instagram. Anyhow, so let's continue. I signed the contract. I started advertising the sale. Linda got cold feet. She had Thanksgiving. We had Thanksgiving because I did all this right before Thanksgiving. And then Thanksgiving happened. And then the next day, she started asking me questions about the contract that she had already previously signed. She wanted to take out the clause in my contract that says, post-sale, okay? There's 2 different kind of people that do my estate sales. The people that don't want to do the clean out, and then the people that think that there's going to be stuff left over and that they'll just be able to resell what's left because, if Mr. Elliott couldn't sell it, for going 25, 50 to 75% off, sometimes a bag sale if the place is so full of just stuff that's not selling. Sometimes I will sell it by the pound to spice things up so that we can get stuff moving, okay? If Mr. Elliott couldn't sell it, well, I could sell it, right? Because they hired me to sell this stuff for them. And so if you want to keep your stuff, and it's good, clean, nice stuff, and it's been priced and advertised by me and appraised by me. I mean, all the stuff that I sell, I go off of what I know it will sell for in the open market. Well, if you want to do that, then I'm going to charge you 20% of what's left over, and you then have 100% equity of your stuff, and you can dispose of it as you see fit. You can donate it, you can sell it, you can do whatever you'd like to for it. Now, with this particular contract, I have 33% interest in everything in your home from the time that I assume possession of your home. Because I make 33% of everything that I can sell. And then if I can't sell it, if I wanted to buy it at 50% off, I could buy it at 80% off. By the time it hits 75% off, you would be paying me to take it. People seem to think that they hold 100% ownership the entire time, where I could buy anything in the house I wanted to. I could buy the whole entire contents and not have an estate sale by my contract. All I have to do is just pay them 33% or 77%. So, I just don't understand why it is people think that, they can sign a contract and then it doesn't matter. You just sue me, right? Okay, cool. I'll see you in court. Like, that's just so easy for people. It's a particular person. Most of the ladies that do this, majority of them are white. Majority of them are over 55. Majority of them have a mentality where I'm going to be a victim. And majority of them are liars. So, and the reason why I say this is because I've dealt with many, many customers exactly like this particular situation. And let me get more into the line. Okay, so she wanted to cross out the 20% after the estate sale if she declined the clearing option, which would be us going in the home, clearing out the house of everything so that the home could be listed or sold or given to a new owner, right? Well, she declined that. She wanted me to ex-nay on that 20%. I said, fine. Given the sale that she had, it was super small. It was maybe $5,000 worth of stuff if she was lucky, if it all sold. And I said, fine, whatever. It's not even worth fighting over. You've already signed the contract. You've already agreed to it. But fine, whatever. So ex-nay on that. And then it come time to pay the $500 up front. Didn't want to do that. She said she didn't want to do that because she might not make any money. And, I'm thinking, well, I've already started advertising your sale. I've already invested my own money in your estate sale, whether or not you've paid me or not. And now I'm out money. And now you don't want to pay the $500 up front. And she said in text message that she didn't want to do the deal if she had to pay the $500 up front, which she agreed to on, page 2, where that X is up there. It says $500. That's what she agreed to. Now, this contract is dated the 25th. She signed on the 25th. I signed on the 25th. So, she said she didn't want to do that. I said that was not a negotiable thing. I'm not going to pay for your advertising, all the labor, all the insurance. I'm not going to pay for everything. and then only get $2,500. Because after taxes, I've paid for federal and state, majority of that $2,500, almost half of it goes to the state and the federal government. So I've worked just 10 hours in advertising. I've got another 10 hours in pricing and setup. And then I've got another 10 hours running the sale. And then I've got another, probably 5 or 10 hours worth of accounting, filing the sales tax. It's not worth it. It's just not worth it. It's not worth it to do all of that work, assume all of the liability, answer all the questions that I do for $1,400. It's not. I could go make more money working at Cracker Barrel as a server. So I told her that was a deal breaker, and she didn't know it, but I had already gotten my car, and I got in my car because I was going to get all of my stuff out of her garage, and I was going to return the garage door opener. Well, I called her before I did this because I thought, well, just call her, see if you can, come to a reasonable negotiation. And I even offered when I did call her, because the first time I called her, she didn't answer. Second time she called me back and said, you had left me a message and text message, because I asked her if she wanted to amend the contract, she would need to call me so that we could agree upon it. That's what it says in my contract. If there's any amendments, they must be done in writing, or there is no amendments, period. So that being said, she agreed that she would answer and talk to me. She called me back, so she wanted to know what I wanted. Well, I told her that it was unacceptable for her not to pay the $500. That I did not agree to assume that, and that we agreed on the $500. That was a problem for her. She said she didn't want to do the deal. I told her I was on my way to her house, and that I had already invested money into the house, and I wanted $500 to cancel the contract on the house. Well, she hung up with me immediately, and I'm, going down to the house. I've got a contract to be there. I've got a contract to be there for exclusively until the estate sale happens. And the estate sale is not scheduled until the December 5th and 6th. And again, today is, the 29th. So I could go over there right now, technically, because she's not terminated the contract. Anyway, so she called the police. She called her brother-in-law. And I'm already at the estate sale by the time she's called me, okay? So she gets in her car, rushes over to the estate sale, and this is on Northwest 20th Street and like Rockwell area, okay? And so I'm already there. I've started to load up my stuff. And I've had problems where people will try to lock me out, and they'll try to lock me out with my stuff. If I take this contract to a locksmith, or if I take this contract to a sheriff, and I can't get into the home, I can get into the home. I have a contract to be there, okay? So locking me out only causes me more of a headache, and only causes the seller more money, because when I sue for you to breach your contract, I'm going to include the locksmith as well as my attorney fees and all my court costs. So she's trying to lock me out. So I disengaged the garages with those little red, things that hang from a garage door, automatic garage door opener. I disengaged that, opened the door, I opened the front and the back door, because I didn't want her to lock me out with all of my stuff. And so my thing is I'm loading all this stuff up, right? And I parked in the street because I didn't want her illegally to try to tow my car or anything like this. All this is premeditated, folks, because again, I've done this. This has happened to me. I mean, I probably do, I would say 100 consultations in a year, and I probably do about 45 to 50 estate liquidations a year. And so that doesn't include assignments, that doesn't include stuff that I've resold, that doesn't include any stuff like that at all. We're just talking about estate sales, folks. And we're just talking about going to consultations of people that call me, ring my line, and they want me to do an estate sale. Now, most of that's because they know who I am. They follow me, they watch my videos. I've built a business. I've made a lot of mistakes to get here where I am today. But Miss Linda Kennard, again, with the contract, she gets there. She immediately is aggressive. She put her hands on me. I was loading up my stuff, going to my car. She starts, off to my car, and I'll show you a clip of this. I thought she was gonna harm my car. She kind of had a walk as though she was on a mission to go and, do something to my car. And she could see what I was loading. She went up to my car, tried to shove me out of the way, and you will see in the clip, that I have her by the arm from hitting me. So, it became violent. She's obviously irrational. Her son-in-law comes, and she tried to hit me before the son-in-law comes. And all of this is on video, by the way, mind you. And son-in-law comes, I explain what happened to the son-in-law, and you'll see a clip here of this, exactly what happened.
Oh, okay.
So I've explained, to the son-in-law exactly what's going on. She's told me that the reason why she can get away with what she's done is because she's a white bitch.
I sat here on
Literally, she said she's an old white bitch, and so that she knows that she can get away with breaching a contract, signing her name to something, because she's claimed that I tried to bamboozle her out of all of this money, and I forced her to sign a contract. Okay, and the police get there. The police arrive. Here's the short clip of the police arriving.
You just said you didn't want me to
Police arrived. I turned my camera off when the police got there. I think that we're already in a situation where, for one, the police shouldn't be called. Second of all, the police have enough stuff on their plate right now. And, I do support the blue, and I do support police officers. Police officers have helped me out a lot in my business, and they've always been very understanding as to what I do as a profession. I've been called the police on many times at someone's estate sale because shit has gone sour. So, and they think that the police are just going to make me go away. When I show them the contract, they don't trespass me. They don't run me off. They don't do anything like that because I have a contract to be there. So it just is hilarious to me that people just say, oh, I'll just call the police on you then. Oh, okay, you can call the police, but I still have an active contract. And so until you terminate this contract with me, or we come to terms to terminate the contract, you still owe me money, and I'm still obligated to do an estate sale here. So again, this is Sunday, the 29th, November 29th, and I have an estate sale that's scheduled this upcoming next weekend, the 5th and the 6th. Now, I've advertised that it's canceled, and I've advertised, what she's done, and this is the first time of me talking about this to anyone, besides, my partner and the people that work for me. It got physical. Her son-in-law basically told me to get the fuck off the property, and that, I just needed to lawyer up, if that's what I thought I needed to do. So, my question to you would be, do I lawyer up? A termination contract of this is $5,000. And it's $5,000 for a lot of reasons. For one, I don't advertise things that I can't sell. You guys watch me. I have a pretty large following, and I'm very grateful to have the following that I have. And, it's hard enough to defend my own personal name from people that will come to my estate sale and maybe see something that was not there that they got advertised to. And a seller will take it. Someone maybe stole it. I don't know. I have no idea. All I know is that I've been there for, a week or two, and I'm trying to do the best that I possibly can. So when I've got it coming from a customer, I've got it coming from a seller, I've got sellers that are unhappy, customers that are unhappy, all I can do is try to keep my mind clear and make clear decisions in a situation where everybody else is batshit crazy. For me to sue her, it would probably cost about maybe $350. It's going to cost me maybe $200 in court costs, and probably $100 to have her served tomorrow. So, and that is something that I'm definitely considering. I think that it's very important, to, once you create a contract, if you create a contract and you don't intend to actually uphold the contract and hold someone to what they signed, there's no point in having a contract. I might as well just do an estate sale every single time with no contract. And let's just do everything on a handshake, right? Or maybe a glove to glove in this wonderful pandemic. I thank you for watching. This is the very first one that I've released of this series. This is going to be, expressions of experiences that I have experienced in my life of doing estate sales. Reselling houses, reselling stuff, personal property. There's some things in here about employees that used to work in estate sales. I've got, these are my short notes. Consignment Nightmare is the title of one. A Doug Brenner sale, that actually happened in Edmond. Joan Ackley, that is a realtor broker here in Oklahoma City that just cannot keep my name out of her mouth no matter what she does. She has to comment on all of my posts and even still tries to buy stuff from me, but she has not a positive word to say about me online. And so I will definitely do a segment on that as well. Mustang sale. I did a Mustang sale here this year not very long ago. It had a little bit of extra drama that I wasn't expecting. Really nice lady. And again, another realtor. She owned the place. It was very nice. I thought a very nice lady. She was a nice lady. It's just she had a lot of drama that she didn't tell me about. And I got to find that out from her family. So got that one on here. I have a young lady named Allison Edwards that I'm going to more or less use as an example. A young lady came in, wanted to buy something. She started crying. And then she thought that she'd take it to Facebook and cause a big stink about it. And she was misinformed, started telling other people that, this happened to her. And there was a whole bunch of witnesses that saw exactly what happened. So, when you do come to my estate sale and you want to play, little funny games and act like a toddler, there's always witnesses, folks. Always witnesses. Northwest Oklahoma City. This is for a really young lady that inherited her mother's house. She was younger than me. I want to say early 19s, like 1920 or something like that. And her mother died in her sleep, and it was a very unfortunate situation. And I really felt sorry for her. It was an awful situation, but I was happy to help. We liquidated the whole house. And the neighbor, 3 or 4 houses down, I put a sign in the neighbor's yard close to the sidewalk. And here's the deal about signs. Folks always think that all the traffic from my estate sales and those lines, they come from the signs. My Elliot's estate sale signs. I have not used a sign in probably 8 months in any of the parking driveways or on the streets. I don't need them, folks. I do a lot of advertising, and so I don't put signs anymore. People ask, where's your signs? Why don't you put signs? This is the reason why I don't put signs anymore. I had a lady come to me, approach me, ask me if I owned the business of the estate sales and why I stuck a sign in her yard and why she was not going to be getting rent for her sign. I thought she was kidding. No, she wasn't kidding. Not only was she kidding, she was going to make it personal. She pulled up in her, 12-year-old Lexus. It's probably like an ES300, early 1999's sedan. Pulled in, basically got out of her car and, harassed me, told me that I clearly didn't live in the neighborhood and she paid her property taxes and she was going to call the police if I didn't take my estate sale sign promoting an estate sale that was in the cul-de-sac of her neighborhood. I said, okay, we'll call the police then, because technically from the sidewalk, 6 foot in is the city's easement, and I pay my business and property taxes as well, and this is part of my, city land as well. So did you have to say anything about that? And she said that I was going to make her late for work. Well, bye. It basically finally ended me up in me taking the sign and moving to a different side of the street, because this is how petty people are in the world. So, I'm pissing all kinds of people off, from the sellers, the customers, people that see maybe posts that they don't agree with on Facebook and leave me nasty messages, right down to the neighbors in the neighborhood that read me like I am beneath them, okay, for putting an estate sale sign in their neighborhood, and it's causing a lot of traffic. Well, I don't need the signs, so I don't use the signs anymore. So if you come to an Elliot's estate sale and you don't see signs, that's why you don't see signs. I don't need them. We have plenty of people that shop my estate sales. Wilma is a lady that I did an estate sale for, or was going to do an estate sale a couple weeks back. I don't know if you've noticed, but about 3 months ago I did an estate sale, or announced an estate sale. And I announced the estate sale was coming up, and then the estate sale didn't happen. It just said cancel. I didn't say anything about it. Well, I didn't say anything about it because I felt like I didn't want to make a big deal about nothing. And it didn't end up in the situation where, Miss Linda Kennard over here, where she stuck her hands on me and made a big giant scene and, was absolutely crazy. This particular lady, she signed with me. And it's always a pet peeve of mine that realtors think that they need to stick their nose in my business, okay? Realtors have absolutely no idea what an estate sale is. Most of them put a sign in the yard, they put your house on MLS, and they take, 6%, 8%, 3% of your entire liquidation of your home. All of your equity, basically, gone. Bloop! Have a good day. They eat that. But you've got folks that are, people that liquidate me, and they want to nitpick my fees, and they want to give me problems about selling their used stuff. But they think that it's okay for a realtor to go in and take 6% of their entire listing. Folks, a $100,000 house in Oklahoma, $6,000 is going to be gone. Expect to then also pay another 3.5% in closing. You've lost $10,000 and you haven't even started selling your house yet at $100,000. If you don't own it outright and you have a note, $10,000 gone right off the minimum. And that's if you don't have an inspection, you don't have to have an appraisal. So, realtors make lots and lots of money. But yet, when it comes to me, my fees can't be justified, which is I just don't understand. But let's carry on. The realtor met with me, and the realtor represented herself as though she had represented the house. And I asked her in the consultation, do you have a contract on the house? Because a realtor cannot represent, no one can represent a house for sale unless they have a contract to buy that house, they own the house, or they have a contract to sell the house in partnership with the seller, like a real estate agent. Well, she had already told me what she wanted to buy for that, or what she wanted to sell the house for, and she had coerced this lady that had contracted me to do the kitchen, the bathrooms, all this stuff. Well, she asked me about my services, about reassigning the contract. Well, reassigning a contract with a house is me meeting with the seller, coming to the seller, asking you what you want to buy the house or what you want to sell the house for. And then I take that contract and I either close and buy the house myself, or I take the contract and I find another buyer for it. And anything above what I've promised you that I'm going to buy it, that's what I get paid for. That's how I get paid for reassigning your house. Well, the real estate agent started freaking out because once the lady started to hear that I could sell her house for no closing costs, she didn't have to remodel anything, and that she could have a check in her hand for 3 weeks and be done with the whole ordeal, the real estate agent stepped out of the room. Called the lady's son. Now, this is an older lady. This lady was supposed to actually pass away a couple weeks ago. And, a lot of people, that's the situation. People start freaking out. Somebody's supposed to die. I get called. And if the person doesn't die, all shit hits the fan because, well, the person's still here. They can still sign their own name. They still need all their stuff. And the house isn't going to be sold. And the children are not going to inherit all of the stuff that this lady that's supposed to die, stuff. It happens all the time. There's so much greed in someone's death, especially with family. So, that being said, this lady did not willfully cancel her contract. Her son called me and threatened me over the phone and told me that they didn't give a shit about my contract and that they didn't even tell me, but they did cancel the contract, the check, the $500 check that she wrote me to do the estate sale the day that she signed the contract. She canceled it. So I'm out, $35 for my bank fee of, the bounce check now. So not only have I spent an hour or so, talking to the customer about the shit that I didn't get to sell, now I'm out $35 and my time. So great story there. Let's see. Oh, this is great. This is about a business that actually was an antique mall that turns into an estate sale company. And it's an estate sale company that Matt McNeil actually forwards a lot of the businesses that he's not interested in. He forwards it to her. It's actually Brown's Estates. Brown Antique Mall is what it used to be. It used to be off of Western, but Retro OKC, I believe, Retro OK is in her location now. I'm sure you know who Brown Antiques is. And she came to my estate sale in 2013, spent $800 with me, gave me the worst experience of my life of a dealer coming in and haggling and being a complete pain in the ass, okay? Loaded all of this shit up on the table and all of it on the floor, didn't negotiate any prices, and then tattled me up. No. You can lift all of your items that you'd like to purchase up on the counter, and we will check you out happily, merrily with a smile. But we will not be treated as though we are your hired help. That's not the way this works. So, sometimes I clash with dealers because dealers have this entitlement where they think that we're just, some stupid estate sale company. We just line stuff on tables and put prices on it, right? No, that's not the case. If you haven't gathered yet, that is not the case here at Elliott's Estate Sales. I know the values. I resell items. I teach people how to resell items. That's not the case. If you want to get a good deal on reselling items, you should come on Sunday, not the first day. And this lady literally came the first day. Well, she called her credit card company and disputed the $700 charge. So not only did she steal all the shit she bought from my Chickasha estate sale, one, I think it was contracted from a bank in Chickasha, and I had to absorb the $700 fee. She sold all this shit at her store on Western. And it took me about 2 years to realize that that is who did it to me. Because I had her credit card number, I had her name, but I didn't know who she was at the time. Well, I found out. And there'll definitely be a story about that. Next one is about someone that used to work for me. And it's really kind of disappointing when someone really lets you down. Someone that you go out on a limb for, and you be really nice to, and, you did someone a favor. Okay? Let's hear about it. We've all done people favors, and you've been, fucked over. Well, there was someone that worked for me, and that particular person, actually, I also knew their mother. And their mother used to work for me as well. Nice people. I wasn't necessarily friends with them. I was friends, actually, with this particular person's sister. They worked for me. And so, they came in, did a really good job, really hard workers. Well, I had 3 estate sales one weekend. And those 3 estate sales, for what you would think would kept me really busy, right? Well, not as busy as apparently this particular person thought at my estate sale, because I had 3 estate sales and I did not let anybody know. And most of the time I don't let people know that I'm just going to show up at an estate sale to make sure that things are being handled right, things that are being handled appropriately, and that the accounting is going well, and that we're able to collect all the information that we need to in order to file our taxes each year. So I come in unannounced, knock, knock, knock on the door. There's a line of people. This estate sale happened in Edmond. There was a car for sale. I think there was there was 2 other estate sales somewhere else. And I just showed up, unannounced. Welcome, hi. And I didn't have a key to the door. The key was actually in a lockbox on the door, but the lockbox didn't have the key in it. Well, that's a rule when we have a key on a lockbox, that the key stays in the lockbox. I don't care where you're at. I need access to the building at all times. So I, couldn't get in. Knock, knock, knock. All I hear is, all I see is people moving everywhere. And there should have been 2 people working this sale. And I see people everywhere. More than people that should have been there, okay? And they're just running around, scaring about, and I, can kind of see in the door what's going on. And I start to see sold signs being taken off of these items that were not purchased. Because after every estate sale, I will have someone record whether or not I'm there or not, what's left, so that I know if the family takes stuff, know if stuff was stolen, or if maybe an estate sale, worker maybe has some sticky fingers. And if you're wondering now, all the people with me are fabulous. The people that work for me have been working for me for 5+ years. And this particular situation, they worked for me about 3 years, and I guess they thought that I wasn't going to notice something. It's really hard to get stuff by me. So they were going to steal stuff from this house. And the person's significant other's truck was backwards in the driveway. All of this unbeknownst to me. You're not allowed to buy anything from an estate sale. No one in my estate sales buys things from my estate sales without my permission. I don't even buy things from my estate sales, period. It's just something that I don't need. I don't need someone else's stuff. And if I do want it, there are plenty of other platforms for me to go to. I could go to an estate sale. I could go on eBay. I could go on Poshmark. I could go to a garage sale and thrift stuffs. I think I've proven that I can thrift. So that being said, that is a lovely story. That person was never talked to ever again after that. And it made me have a lot of restraint of my emotions, because once I felt out what was going on, that, not only was they going to steal from me, they were going to steal from the sellers. And I had a line of buyers. Of stuff that could have bought the stuff that they were marking sold for themselves. Now, I don't know if there was intentions to buy this stuff, so I never really accused them of stealing. But what I do know is they were being dishonest, and they were doing stuff without my permission. And that is something I don't tolerate. So anyway, I appreciate you guys for watching. This is going to be the initial kind of preview as to what's going to go on in the series that's coming up here. And I will try to get them out as soon as possible. I'm going to try to release them all at once. Now, this one will probably be released beforehand, and then the rest of them will just be like bam, 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 bam. So I appreciate you watching. I hope you have a great day. And thank you for shopping at Ellie's Estate Sales. Be sure and like, follow, and subscribe.